What's going on, everybody? It's me. You know who it is. Come on, guys, say it with me now. It's.
Super Dave.
And you guys are locked in to Miltown in the Morning, special Saturday edition. It's not like I keep any regularity with these things or anything, but as you guys can tell, I'm a little under the weather. Um, Man, I got this thing in my throat and I'm all stuffed up. Is anybody else like sick? I heard it's going around, but man, I'm just really just like dead tired, exhausted. I don't think it's the dreaded vid, but I see great people in the chat. I see Carla in the chat. Carla, I hope you enjoyed that song. A little shout out to Brazil for you. Vault Wanderers in the chat. We have Tara in the chat, Terrar, as I like to call her. I saw PT in the chat earlier. I think he just stopped in. Paradox has already stopped in to say hello. We're building an awesome community here, guys, and without you guys, my depression would be on a whole nother level. And that's not bait. We're going to talk about baiters and all types of stuff today. And I have some apologies I need to give. I want to kind of clue people in on their homework. That's been a big key term lately, homework. We're memeing it, and I love that meme. Make sure you guys do your homework. Tons and tons of community drama going on, tons of community news. We got people jumping ship, we got people climbing out from underneath rocks, gypsies, so to speak. It's just so much going on in this community. We just got to dive in somewhere, and I think the best spot is to talk about my last stream. You guys all know it was of course the stream of Huggy Bear. And I made a lot of accusations about Huggy and who else was that I was talking about? Oh, the Slug guy. I was talking about Slug and Huggy. And it was a very interesting situation. Let me pull some stuff up here, guys. We need to make sure we have visual aids for everything today. Sorry, I really am not feeling all that well. Excuses, I know. Cry me a river, Dave. So as you guys know, I said we're going to talk about the week of Huggy Bear. And that week has just passed. And it all culminated with me on the very first ever live episode of Wall Smashers. For those of you who don't know, Wall Smashers is Badwick's show. And Badwick has a show with a bunch of other community members, and they talk about commentary topics. It really is like the Fox News of the commentary community. We have Dingus McRibs in the chat. Sorry to stop real quick, but I did jump off. I did jump off the air last week without acknowledging the rumors, and the rumors are that I play Raid Shadow Legends, and the truth is I do play Raid, and I'm like an avid Raid fan as well. I'm sorry to get so red talking about that. I didn't know this game had so much hate. I seriously had no idea that everybody hates Raid Shadow Legends. Like, seriously, I don't know what it is about this game. I mean, yes, it's a grinding game. You gotta grind. I'm from old school World of Warcraft where you gotta grind for everything. So, I mean, it's, and it does kind of eat into my pocketbook a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, but what game with microtransactions doesn't eat into your pockets this day and age? Dingus says this is foul. Barking Tiger says this is very bad. Unsubscribe, cancel, Dave. No, okay, guys, I hate Raid Shadow Legends. This is definitely not a good game. I don't play it, guys. Raid Shadow Legends? What's that? Better? Just don't be spending that money. Oh, guys, you guys are a blast, man. So yesterday I put out this tweet and I said, this is going to be the last time I'm going to be talking about Huggy Bear, guys. I talked about him last week, and in response to that, Huggy Bear had, let's take a look here, guys. Huggy Bear had about, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4 streams he had in response to my one stream Basically just saying I thought he's a flip-flopper and he's letting less than ideal people on his streams. And, you know, it was what it was. This is going to be the last time I talk about Huggy Bear. And I offered him all the advice I can, and it's up to him if he can take it. Now, I said you got to be more selective about the people he chooses to have on his platform. And hello, good morning, only mistakes. And grinding on women, McRib says. Sorry, guys, my mind is everywhere. We got so much to talk about today. But, damn, brain fart. But yeah, so anyways, I said all this to Huggy, and I said, you got to really be careful about who you have on your platform. And what does he do the next day? He has Sen on. And for those of you guys who know, MrSen has been engulfed in more pedophilia drama. Lolly drama, we shall call it. And it's like, he goes from having a dude casting death threats to a dude defending bullshit. And I don't know much about MrSen. I don't get off on these lolly dramas. I'm not an anime guy. I don't like cartoons per se. So I don't have a take on it. MrSen seems perfectly nice. Seems like a very rabid dog. He seems like he will bite you in an instant. But I just couldn't believe, you know, Huggy just has this whole big drama about who he platforms on his channel. And what does he do? He goes and platforms MrSen. He's the only one who gave MrSen a platform besides the other Echo. Cathartic Echo, I believe his name is. Gave him a platform as well. But at least Echo didn't give him a hug box. Echo had Leigha Something on there with him, and it was confrontational. It was basically saying, Sen, you can't get away with the shit you've been trying to pull and all these quote-unquote cover-ups. And I was like, okay, at least it's not a hug box. But you go on Huggy Bear, you get a hug box. So right there, it shows me that Huggy doesn't take his platform seriously. And when I was on the whole Wall Smashers live show, I only went on that show for you guys, my community. And it seems like my community and Huggy's community, we're all small commentary. We all share a base audience. And, you know, that's fair to say. But everybody in the Wall Smashers chat was like, come on, Miltown, you know, do it for the content. Even Shadow Humor was in there like, come on, Miltown, do it for the content. So I did it for the content. I went into the chat room, into the VC, I should call it. I'm so old school when I say chat room. I went into the VC, and I just said it like it was. Now, guys, some stuff kind of got confused. When I do these live chats, these VCs, I get very overwhelmed very easily. And I think I got a couple of my points kind of mixed up. And I also want to let you guys know I have some apologies I have to make. I invited Darcy on. I don't know if Darcy's here. I gave Darcy an invite. Darcy's welcome to join whenever he would like. Ivana, thanks for subscribing. I appreciate it. I have a problem with pronouns. Before I get into any of this, I just have to get this out. I wish Darcy was here, but I'm a simple Midwest guy. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and my experience with the LGBTQ plus community is limited, to say the least. Here in Milwaukee, we do have a big LGBTQIA plus, whatever you would like to call it, community. I'm not a part of it. So pronouns is something new to me. When I had a previous co-host, Valid Creations, who wanted to go by they, them pronouns, I constantly, only said, mistake said mod me. Yeah, give me a second here. I constantly would mess up pronouns, always on Valid. And by the grace of God, Valid was understanding of that. And when I made friends with Darcy, oh, Darcy's here. Darcy, you can unmute whenever you want.
Like, can you hear me Can you
Oh
hear me
yeah,
properly?
yeah, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, you're all good.
Okay, so Darcy, first and foremost, I would just like to say hello. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
What time is it for you right now?
Um, it's currently 1 in the morning. So 1:11 in the morning.
Oh wow, so absolutely thank you for taking the time out. I owe you an apology, Darcy, and I'm just gonna be forthright and say I'm sorry. Um, I think as long as we've known each other at this point, I think you realize there's no bad faith when I mess up pronouns, right? You know that, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things where I understand where people like have a sort of like not necessarily have a problem, but like they accidentally use the wrong pronoun. But like I find it interesting that like some people that like generally speaking, majority of the people that are aware of my existence within the community have known of my existence since at least 2021.
Yeah.
I've always gone by he, him pronouns throughout that whole time. So it's just fascinating to me, in some regard, in how like people um, continue to mess it up, and even not even mess it up publicly. They might mess it up even in private. It's just like it's interesting.
Well, I can shed some light
It's
on how I get it confused. For me, first of all, when I first learned of Darcy, I learned of Darcy through Dove and my previous co-host, and I was I always thought I saw the name Darcy, and to me Darcy's a feminine name. I know you said all the Darcys you know are male, but when I hear Darcy, I
most of
think
them are.
and so I was thinking, I was like, and then they told me your whole lore. So I think that just ingrained in my head at that point. And then ever since then, I've had a hard time getting it out. And I just need you to understand. I mean, no offense. I'm working as hard as I used to do it with Eli all the time. And it's like, I'm a Midwestern guy. I've never really had much experience with this. I'm broadening my friendships into different,
Horizons.
yeah, into different, new people, new everything. So I just beg that you could be kind of a little patient with me. I understand um if you're upset, and I really, I can't apologize enough. Just know my heart is in the right place is all I really can. I'm not doing it out of offense to you, and I will work as diligently as I can to not let this happen again.
No, it's all good on my end. Like for example, outside of my family, most people now call me by he, him pronouns in person. Um, it's only when, like, I'm, say, for example, going shopping with my old man, where most people that know me in person, they know to use female pronouns in regards to not setting my old man off. He's very old school.
Okay.
Um, like so, I'm used to like she her sort of pronouns at home.
Okay.
Um like when I was younger, um I came out firstly to a few friends in early 2014. And they were it, to them it was like it was nothing new. It was like they already knew.
Okay.
Um and then I came out to like my classmates at the end of 2014.
Was that a hard thing for you to
Um,
do?
at the time, yeah, it was because I went to a Catholic private school,
Oh wow.
and so people, though the majority of people in my class were like agnostic or like they didn't have much of a religious background in general. I think that that's sort of like the majority of my peers. Like most of us aren't like heavily raised, at least in like my circles. We weren't like heavily raised into like religious religious indoctrination, if that makes much
Okay.
sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The main reason most of us like went to the school was because it had at the time a good reputation.
Okay.
And it also, for me, it had a pool.
Nice.
I actually got into that school through a scholarship when I was much younger, a sports scholarship, which might surprise some people. But at the time, it was like pretty confronting. Most people thought I was lesbian for like the longest time. Like
Okay.
I didn't even acknowledge that sort of thing until much later. I had like a lot of. It's funny, like I had a lot of internalized, in my opinion, internalized homophobia in regards to while I was identifying as a woman and being attracted to women.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's making much sense,
No,
but
no,
I
it
like
does. It does.
um and then the opposite happened when I started to transition to how I am now and
And
how
how old were
I still
you when that
found.
started?
Sorry?
How old were you when you started transitioning?
So I was 16 when I first started going to therapy for it.
Okay.
Um and I started like I didn't start dressing any much different because I was already dressing sort of like tomboyish. It wasn't like I think like the most like feminine thing I used to wear at the time was like a singlet where you could like see my cleavage, and that was about it.
Okay.
Outside of that, it was always like a t-shirt and jeans, or a t-shirt and like some like knee-ish length shorts. That sort of thing. Like nothing like super feminine. Well before I did come out, I like heavily tried to like present feminine, and it never felt right.
Okay.
It was just like it wasn't computing. I kept looking in the mirror. I'm like, this is disgusting. I don't like this.
And when you say
This is like,
disgusting, you mean literal disgust?
yeah,
Like,
like literal disgust. Like, um, super uncomfortable with like my very specifically with my top half of my body.
okay.
Um, like, because when I was a child, I was diagnosed with precocious puberty disorder, which
What's that? I'm
basically
not
I
sure
hit.
what that is.
So basically, it's where people, generally women, hit puberty a lot earlier than your average person does.
Okay.
And so I hit puberty. I started menstruating around 5 years old. Started to
Oh,
develop
wow.
breasts around 6. I had B cup sized breasts by the time I was 10, and it made me very, very uncomfortable. Because of the age difference, like because people weren't catching up to me, or they weren't even. A lot of them weren't even starting. Um, my height, like I went from being like 4 foot to 5 foot in a matter of like a few months, and
Wow.
I was the tallest in the class for a brief moment in time. Um, and then it was just like once I hit to like 12, 13, um, that's where it got really, really uncomfortable because I had like not just like people in like uh what you would call like what do you call them? Well, at my school they would be called like year 11s and 12s, but
Okay.
they would be seniors to you, I
Yeah,
presume.
juniors and seniors. Yeah. 11s would
Um,
be juniors, seniors would be 12s.
and so like that really it was when people were looking at like my chest and not my face, that really bothered me. I'm like, I really am uncomfortable with this situation to a point of where at at times I wanted to cut them off, like physically cut them off.
Yes.
Like it's a very intense feeling. I don't recommend it I don't want like people to have to like go through that sort of thing.
Were you able to go to your family with these feelings at that time? Because like you said, you started therapy at 16. Was your family accepting about all this?
No, so I actually went to therapy through the school because I was at the time I was also acting out a lot. And so the previous year I was already in therapy with this other student. They'd made a comment about my weight, and they had previously made a comment about a friend of mine's weight, and I'd thrown a chair at them.
Oh wow,
And
okay.
they had, yeah, I was very angry. And they had their mate throw a table at me. The table missed me, hit the teacher in the back of the knee, and also cracked one of the windows. And so I went to group therapy with his mate and him and my friend, and that was probably like the most awkward group therapy sessions you'll ever
I can
have.
imagine.
There was obviously like a lot of like details about those two people that came out in those group therapy sessions where like nowadays it makes a lot more sense. Like in my opinion, the abused became the abuser, or like
Yeah.
they were treated a certain way as young people, and so they felt the need to treat others the way that they were treated, if that
Okay.
makes much sense.
It does.
But yeah, I'd already been through that sort of type of therapy through the school, and then at some stage, I'd written like this long, like almost like a confession, I suppose, about shit that was going on like at home, and that's when the school got me into family counselling. And at some stage, my mum, like before she had more strokes later on, she came down and I expressed some issues I had with what was going on at home.
Okay.
Which was a lot at the time and can still be a lot at the current time. But at that time, mum didn't want to admit what was going on at home.
Okay.
And like, so after she had like gone and done a couple of sessions, I continued to see this family therapist dude, and I'm just like, well, these are my issues, and I don't know if there's like a term for this, because I'm from rural Victoria, so like my hometown has a population of like maybe 1,500 people,
Oh
if
wow.
you're lucky. And like the very first like trans-ish person I ever met was treated like absolute dog shit.
Okay.
They were called a tranny, a he, she, shim, and they had to move 3 times locally before they left the town, because people would rock their house, people would like toilet paper their house, and people would just genuinely harass them.
Darcy, yeah, are you aware of what's going on in our chat right now?
Nah, I can't see the chat.
We're bumming them out. They say this is too intense for this early in the morning.
Oh, fuck.
They said that they want to know. I have to ask Darcy real quick before. I don't mean to cut you off, but do you play Raid?
I do not.
Okay.
Please tell me you don't play Raid Shadow Legends.
Come on. Well, I hate it now. The chat says I have to hate it. I don't. I mean,
base chat.
as we move on a little bit here, you've been very forthcoming with just talking to me about all this stuff and talking to the audience about the trials and tribulations you've been through. Now, you've been in the community and you've been recently associated with Rev, and I assume Rev knows your entire story, correct?
For the in regards to like being trans and that sort of stuff, for the most part, he knows some of it. Some of it I haven't shared with him.
Oh, okay.
Like I know, like in my opinion, I know a lot more about him than he knows about me. Like there was a time like halfway through what we were, I was like, I need you to start asking me questions. I need you to get to know me because I feel it's unbalanced. I feel I know, like, in my opinion, I felt like I knew too much about him.
Oh,
And I'm
wow.
like, I
Okay.
feel, yeah, like, he, like, around, like, 6 weeks into, like, us conversing privately, there was, like, a very specific comment that he made that, like, kind of shocked me. Because I'm not sure if the audience is aware, but there's a good 19-year age gap between me and Rev,
Yeah, that's what I was
and
going to touch on that.
and um, and like he'd said that he'd shared um a lot with me that he had never done before, and I'm like, this is like in the first like 6-7 weeks, and I'm like, hang on, that like I never like brought it up like to be like, this is a lot of information, like this is too much. But in my brain at the time, I remember thinking, hang on, that's a lot to say. Like there's a whole like 45 years worth of information,
Yeah.
and it's like it's it wasn't a lot to handle. It was more so I was surprised that he hadn't had someone to talk about those sort of things with, if that
It,
makes sense.
yeah, seeing as how he was married and everything, you would think that he would have been able to talk about those things, right?
And that's what I would have presumed. I would have presumed that like he had like at least someone close, or not, doesn't have to be his wife, a friend of his, that sort of thing. And it still sticks out. Like that comment still sticks out to me to this day. I'm like, because I have like I have close friends of mine, like myself,
Mm-hmm.
and like some of those friendships are very complex, very complicated, and they took a long sort of time to get to a place of comfort. Can't English. Come.
To be comfortable.
Yeah, to get to that sort of comfortable place where I do love them platonically. And we're able to be like pretty open about very specific details, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so it was just like really surprising, like in a relatively short period of time, that like he felt comfortable enough to be like that open, and then comfortable enough to like say like this. I've, this is the most open I've been to another human being. Um, but yeah, like so the other night we were, well, it was night for me, well, afternoon for me. It was late night for him. We were talking inside a Discord, and a
So you
Discord
are
channel
talking to
chat.
Rev again.
Yeah, so we're currently speaking again.
Good terms, bad terms? I
Which
mean, where are you guys at right now?
I'd say we're on like pretty good terms. We did a lot of apologizing. Um, I
Did you
think
take
a
offense when
phone.
he misgendered you?
I took a lot of I took a lot. I took more. I can't English. I took more offense when he did it because he was very specific in the way he did. He even said he's directly misgendering me. Like that was something he very, very much said he was doing. And like he has since, and like it hurt me because I knew of his current situation, and like the whole time I've known of him, and that we've like chatted publicly, he's always known me as he him. So
Yes.
it genuinely hurt my feelings. I know feelings on the internet bad, don't do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it genuinely hurt my feelings more than when you did it. Like because like me and him had a more close relationship, obviously, and it's
Yeah.
just like it's
Speaking
one of
of
those things.
feelings, you know, when we speak of feelings, there's a very emotional man in the commentary community, and his name's Huggy Bear. And
We
when I
love a
say
suicide baiting 39-year-old, don't we?
when I say the name Huggy Bear, what comes to mind for you, Darcy? Tell me your views on Mr. Bear.
Oh, my favorite bear. So he like me and Huggy have had private conversations, and like I originally thought he was like at least 5 years younger than myself, and so
Okay.
he made some sort of post at one stage, and I reached out, and I'm just like, well, like, are you doing all right? What's the go? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so to see him like to post a sort of like meme thing when I had attempted suicide, he's just like, "Oh, I'm glad to see this person's downfall." I'm just like, "What the fuck is that about?" And
Yeah.
then
When
to
you've been
hear
nothing but
how
nice to him.
I was just like that came out of nowhere. And I'm just like, "All right, well that's kind of nasty." And to find out that later on that this grown adult 39-year-old man is was suicide baiting and admitted to having done so himself. And it just pisses me off. Like, I've not said once that when I attempted that it was bait at all.
Yeah.
And it drives me absolutely nuts that he had the audacity to go on multiple streams and like call me a baiter, all this sort of shit.
He's still saying it to
And
this day, by the way. You know, that's his
oh,
opinion now.
it's just maddening. Like, grown adult man, like, and he manipulated people when he did that. Like at the time, like you're one of the people he manipulated it
Yeah.
with.
He
Do
did.
you
And it's
feel
funny
that
that
way?
yeah, I do. And it's funny that Vault Wanderer just said in chat, Huggy was MCR posting again this week. And I actually have that up some. I actually pulled that Huggy Bear tweet if I can find it here. Here we go. He said on March 20th, he said, I'm afraid to have no one to miss. I'm afraid of not having anyone to love. And then he followed that up on the 21st by saying, I have never healed. I just forced myself to figure shit happened. I mean, I'm all for emotionally expressing yourself, but these are to the point where it's like you have to question if one's mentally stable at this point, right? Like before you engage with like I'm curious, like should I engage with this guy or is he just like not mentally stable and well enough to handle some jokes? Like I don't know.
In my opinion, like based on conversations I've had over the past 6 weeks, and if someone is suicide baiting, it's also a cry for help. And I
Yes.
think that person who is baiting could genuinely seek therapy. Like,
It's helped
there's
me.
obviously like things going on, like that are beyond like people online's control, and like unfortunately, like most people online, they don't live like a 5 minute drive from someone, so they can't like do an actual welfare sort of check. I know in the States it's a lot different. To hear, pardon me, to hear where like depending on where you are, you can call um mental health sort of advocate that will come and like more of a social worker mental health sort of thing where they'll come and like knock on the door, like see what the go is,
Yeah.
rather than like people coming in like guns blazing, that type of thing.
Yeah. And you asked that question if I felt baited. I absolutely did. I was kind of at war with Huggy there for a little while earlier last year, and when all was said and done and he did those very first round of what he called My Chemical Romance tweets, I got spooked. And I a quick about face, like, no, man, this is just entertainment, bro. Like, please, and then I felt the need to almost put out a PSA about self-harm. Like, it's not the way to go. And I immediately apologized to Huggy, and I thought everything was okay. And that was up until I did my last stream about Huggy. What were your thoughts on my stream about Huggy and his stream in response, Darcy?
So I watched Huggy's first, and then I watched yours.
Okay.
And it was interesting to watch it like backwards. Because I'm just sitting there like, well, I was so frustrated because you and I had spoken in private about how you felt manipulated by Huggy when Huggy suicide baited. I'm just like,
no.
I'm sitting there listening to him talk, and I'm just like, you're a grown man and you suicide baited, and you admitted to doing so with a meme.
Yeah.
And it just like even now I'm like so genuinely like angry about it. It makes me angry that like not just yourself but like other people around that time, they like felt manipulated.
Yeah.
And it's just like he admitted to doing so like literally like a couple. How long ago was that? Where he
I'd say that was
that meme.
Last November. I would say it was it was before Christmas of last year. So
it was only like super recently where he admitted that it was all bait.
Yeah, and then
he's
even
just like, oh well.
Yeah, Valwander said again in chat, and then on top of that, he lied about all the people who came to check on him. He said it was only Hashish who checked on him. I know personally I sent him a message. I know PT sent messages. I'm sure VW sent messages. Carla, I'm almost positive, did. So it's like, I feel like, what is his goal? Is it just whoever he's with, he'll spew whatever they want to hear? Like, do you think that's what his problem is?
I think so, like to some extent. Like the streams I see him of, he has this tendency to flip-flop to the person that he's speaking to's opinion.
Yeah.
And it's just like, grow up and form your own opinion. It doesn't have to match the person you're talking to.
Yeah.
And that can create like a reason. It doesn't even have to be a debate, but it can create like an interesting conversation. It doesn't always have to be, oh, I agree with you. Oh, that person's a baiter. They should kill themselves because they allegedly baited, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. And like when I was on Wall Smashers, I was saying this earlier, I got so jumbled up. I think people were saying, I was saying that Huggy was agreeing with you when you did your stream with Badwick. I wasn't trying to say, I was talking about the stream that Ember and I were on, where we all came at Rev. In that stream, Huggy was extremely pro Darcy, okay? And then 24 hours later, he did a stream with Slug and Sen, and Rev was on that stream, and he was all about him and Rev were tag teaming you, and that's what I was trying to get across. But like I said, I didn't have all the facts in front of me, so I went through and I did my homework, Darcy, and I pulled all the streams, and I did some relevant timestamps, and I'm going to put them in the description. You know, this is so past now. You're talking with Rev again. So it's kind of like a dead story at this point, but I will link that in the description if anybody is interested. I have to ask though, Darcy, were you mad when Ember and I kind of spoke out of class about this?
To an extent, like I should have. So I told Badwick in private that I didn't want stuff to come up about one specific person, and I should have been more direct with Ember, but I was asleep by the time, like I was already like sleeping while you had gone on. I was in the chat briefly, but I'd gone back to sleep. I was in hospital at the time,
Okay.
and I was in and out of sleep all the time while I was there. And I remember us having a private conversations about it. I'm just like, I generally speaking, I don't want to make any of this public. It was never like a smear campaign, in my opinion, at least. Like the conversations that we've had, and
Yeah,
I've been
absolutely.
very, very specific about like um Rev not being a bad person, in my
No,
opinion.
you've always been very pro Rev. Always. Even when I think you were being a little too charitable, and I felt like I was being the downer of the conversation. I don't want you to think I'm like so anti this guy. It's just I worry. I really worry in a lot of instances, and that's just from my past. You know, I've done a lot and I've seen a lot done, and I just, you know, I think of you as a friend, Darcy, and I just didn't want anything horrible to happen to you. You
Yeah,
know.
like that's something that some people like in the audience might not even know. Like I had planned to meet up with you while I was in the States, and we'd
Yeah.
talked about it.
Yeah.
Like we talked about how I wanted to introduce you to a friend of mine who was like genuinely struggling like mentally,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted like someone, because I found out like where you lived,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, oh, that's like within hours sort of like drive of this other friend, and I'm like, well, maybe that because they're of similar ages, they might be able to like get along. Maybe like you two could actually become friends yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that would bring his life up, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, and like, unfortunately, normally in my like regular life, I don't get sick. Like, until I never got travel health insurance because I'm a dumbass. And so, I went out Halloween Eve or Halloween or whatever you call it, which is very fascinating in the States compared to here because it's not often celebrated here.
Really?
And yeah, it's not like it's only like recently becoming like a thing.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, it's not. It was never big when I was young, and it was just like always on like American like TV programs, and like you'd see all these like kids running around with like trick or treat bags, and
Yeah.
like and the teenagers going off to do scallywag things, and like so it was like, in my opinion, it was like my first like sort of real experience of like Halloween and how that's sort of done over there. And I went with like Rev's family and some extended family of his, and we were all going around like with all these other people that I've never met before, and it felt kind of like Christmas in a weird way, like where you would go around like and drive past all these like Christmas lights.
Yeah.
But instead of like Christmas lights, it was like you're going up to a stranger's door asking for some candy.
Yeah.
And like it was a really nice night.
Tara
And
says we honor the dead here.
something like that. But yeah, no, it was a really nice night. Unfortunately, within like because it was the coldest I think I've ever experienced. Like for me, cold is like below 10 degrees Celsius.
Oh wow.
And so there at the time, it was very cold for me. And so I'm like freezing, and I don't want to like admit that I'm freezing. And the following day, I'm just like sick, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. I get sicker and sicker and sicker, and I don't want to say anything because I know that I knew of their financial situation. I knew that like doctors in the US like actually cost money compared to
Yes.
in Australia, where like I could go to the emergency room and it wouldn't cost me anything like up front to go there.
You guys have free healthcare in Australia?
So if you're you have to have a Medicare card and a healthcare card. A healthcare card is for those that are either like low income earners or they have special circumstances.
Oh, okay.
Another option compared to a healthcare card is a pensioner card or a disability card. They all sort of give you like free or cheap healthcare. A regular doctor's visit, if you're not on one of those, is like $42 if it's all booked in, that sort of thing. But generally speaking, like going to the emergency room, unless you're going via ambulance, is it doesn't cost you that much, at least from my experience.
Okay.
And so by the end of that trip, I was so like embarrassingly sick. It's just genuinely the sickest I've ever been. I didn't want to make it known how sick I was. I was just coughing all the time and having bodily dysfunctions, and it wasn't fun, very embarrassing. And like what I was showing to Rev and Broadsword was like just that I had a sore throat. But
Okay.
the reality was I was like so sick. It's a
And
sick,
that's
like
what
genuinely the sickest I've been, like outside of like being in like a hospital bed.
kept you from traveling to come see me.
Yeah, it kept me from traveling to see yourself, someone else down in Florida, and a couple of other mates along, which would have been along the way to your state, because your state is on the opposite side of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And and like I would have driven through Idaho and caught up with a friend of mine that I met on. This is going to be a funny one. I met this person on Omegle.
Oh.
Back when Omegle was a thing.
Well, Darcy, you're all over the internet, man.
Oh, I've
You get
basically
around.
grown up on it, really. Age, sex, location, that type of thing.
Oh man.
Like, I don't know how. Back up, Habbo Hotel was like the worst.
I mean, like,
people would like, oh, that was the. Because I was young, and I used to like say I was like I used to say I was much older than I was. I was like 11, 12, 13, saying I was like 15, 16, 17, that type of thing.
okay.
And like, it was wild, like the amount of like fucking disgusting people that were on these like platforms where like children were. And someone that I would consider a friend of mine. I don't know if they currently consider me a friend of theirs, but we were talking one day, and I'm just like doing my oversharey thing that I do by like without even noticing it. Sometimes I do it,
Yeah.
and like I'm just speaking, and they just like, you should have been protected, and that's like the first time I've like taken a step back, and like no one before then had like said those specific words.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah, right. I should have been protected. Like, there should have been more adults involved in my online activity when I was like that young. Like, I was speaking to men well older than me. I wasn't dumb enough to meet up with those types of people until I was 15, where I lied to my parents about going to a friend's house, but I took a bus and a train ride down to Melbourne, and I ended up engaging with someone who was turning 30.
Oh wow, talk about
Um,
craziness.
yeah, I've had a wild history,
That takes
both
balls to do
online and
that.
offline. I have stories for days.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
I wanted to ask you some questions though, because you kind of really, let's just say, broke into the commentary community with your coverage of Edwin. Now, I've had my history of Edwin, and Edwin is basically the reason why we know each other at this point.
it's ironically, sorry to cut
Yeah,
you off. It's ironically also the reason I know who Rev is.
yeah, through Edwin.
It No, so through like the Edwin sort of stuff.
Okay,
Um, so people assume that I hacked into his account way back in 2021, when what happened was the original hackers of his actual account, they posted his password
yes,
to Twitter, and I logged in that way. And at the
okay,
time, I was like, I regret it now, but at the time, I was so angry because I'd heard him blatantly lie on a Nick Diorio stream in mid-December of 2020 about the Onision documentary, and I'm like, hang on. And so I got into his account, and I went straight to Stephen A. Sarch's messages, and I recorded them. There was a few other messages that I recorded that I then released to specific people.
okay,
Origami from Crows of Judgment was one, and he was the first person I'd spoken to in regards to the leaked messages. Followed
okay.
by Crow, followed by Steve DeLeve, followed by Deity. Those are the
Gotcha.
four people I spoke to at the time in regards to the leaked messages. Um, and Rev was one of the commenters in like the Crows of Judgment streams. And he had his own sort of thing going on where he would speak about cults and that sort of thing. And I, at the time, had no idea about Jonestown. And
Gotcha.
one time I just watched one of his streams about Jonestown, and it's like stood out to me.
Okay.
I
So, go ahead.
sorry, probably speaking almost too much.
No, no, I'm
Um,
very fascinated.
so I'm not sure if the audience is aware, but at the time, my favorite pal Edwin, he had this like group. They called themselves the Department of Homeboy Security,
Oh wow.
DHS for short.
Okay.
When Dove came around, I used to jokingly say it was like DHS 2.0.
Gotcha.
Um, and So the original DHS consisted of 6 members, 4 of which I'm now on like really good terms with. Steffi was one of them, and during that time, Steffi like followed me like on. I used to like disappear occasionally and like reappear on like a different or a new account, and Steffi would like somehow find me all the time. She's
Wow.
admitted to doing this now.
Yeah, didn't you
She's
say
actually
that
the
she made
reason.
your life hell at one point?
Yeah, it was. I was like so paranoid. I was very paranoid. I ended up leaving the like the community in general in September of 2021, around that time, September, October. And the only person that reached out to me was Comment Cop.
Gotcha.
Um, and and also Comment Cop like copy. And at that time, I was told to just lay low, like stay away, that sort of thing, which I did. I got into like I started working at 4 different places. I filled up all my time with work. Occasionally, I would catch like a Red Bar stream, which is how I found out about Salvo.
Oh, okay. That's how a lot of people are found out about Salvo.
I had no idea who he was, until Red Bar brought him up about in regard to my pal Deaf Noodles,
Yeah.
Dennis Feitosa, my good pal. He's not
You
really,
actually, I was about to say, is he really your friend?
we spoke briefly when he was not banned on Twitter.
Gotcha.
I don't think Dennis is a bad dude either. I think he did some sluggish things in my opinion. He was calling people pedophiles on Twitter when it was just no, that's not something you do.
Yeah.
Um, um, he had a lot of he it sort of reminds me of how Huggy is. He sort of bent his knee to the popular opinion.
Yes. That's kind of good that you said that, because that transition's kind of in what I wanted to go into here with the whole Edwin. He's streaming again now, and he's got a new co-host, and his new co-host is my old co-host, and that is Valid. And I always wondered, what was your take on the whole Dove Valid situation? We all know Dove doxed you very publicly. Oh, well, it wasn't very public. It was put out there by another individual. But what's your take on Valid Creations now working with Edwin?
It's interesting. I don't think Valid, me and Valid had a few conversations back and forth privately. Well before she became a co-host of Edwin's stuff. I personally don't watch Edwin's content anymore. I don't feel the need to. I need to preach, in my opinion. I need to preach. I need to do what I preach to others.
Okay.
And so a conversation I had with Rev was in relation to Slug. I said, stop allowing him to live rent-free in your mind.
Yes.
And so I need to start practicing what I was preaching. So I stopped engaging in Edwin-related things. I stopped watching his content. However, people still bring up his content to me, whether it's publicly or privately.
Well, you've shown me some of Edwin's old content that I could not believe how disturbing it was, and how
it's
alarms
so
weren't. Alarms should have been signaled a long time ago on this guy, and for Valid to be there by his side still to this day makes me positive I was in the right by severing ties with them.
There's stuff about Edwin that's not even public that just makes me sick to my stomach. He platformed this fella named Karim Abridged.
I'm not aware who that is.
Karim, he's
Okay.
worse than Edwin. He knowingly sexted 14-year-olds when he was 19. And that's at minimum. He was caught doing it again in 2022. While he's older than I am, but he's younger than Edwin. And it just pisses me off that he was given a platform to not only speak on specific accusations, but he also made an allegation of sexual assault about another creator on Edwin's platform, and that creator is Evan Edinger. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Okay.
Who's a relative. I think Evan has over 1 million subscribers now. I could be wrong, but Edwin still has that whole back and forth with him and Karim on his channel, and I ended up reaching out to a victim of Karim's, and I found out that Edwin had asked that victim to remove the evidence from Twitter that Karim knowingly sexted her when she was 13 and 14 years old.
That's insane. That's absolutely
And it
insane.
makes me sick to my stomach that I know that, and that's like not like publicly known, because that was a private conversation I had with this victim. And she she wants nothing to do with Edwin or any online sort of thing. Her account's now private. Um, and she hopes that any other victims of Karim go straight to the police. He's a sick fuck. Um, and another like creator Edwin also platformed was V1I, who now goes by V Third Eye, who admitted to statutory rape of
Wow.
a minor and get buying and giving them alcohol. And like that dude's allowed to have a platform too. And it's like,
Wow.
what the fuck? Like,
Man,
and
I
like
feel so
when
bad for Eli because she's so caught up in this guy, and she thinks, she, like somebody just said in the chat room, it was actually PT. It's actually sad because Valid dedicates her whole life to Edwin. So do a lot of people that are in his Discord server, and it's like he gives them a shred of his time, Darcy, and it's almost like you need to be great. He used to do that to me, like if he would come on my show or if he would do something, I needed to like almost bow down to him and be grateful that the great and powerful Edwin is giving me the time of day. And I can see how he does that to women or whatever. I
it,
remember being in a call with Dove, and Dove was literally giddy like a little schoolgirl because Edwin wore a necklace that she bought him. And it was like,
it
look, he's not a member of the Beatles.
like a, a comment that Keemstar once made was Edwin's audience is mostly like for the most part, a lot of them are victims of sexual assault themselves.
Oh yeah, that makes
Um,
sense because that's what he's the Me Too guy.
and like he should, and Keemstar's right. In my opinion, Edwin shouldn't be making Me Too content when he's borderline Me Tooing people.
And that's funny because his
Um,
stream 2 days or it was about 2 weeks ago, the stream that I'm talking about with Valid, who now goes by the name Gypsy, by the way. I don't know where that came from, but Valid Creations is now Gypsy. And he was doing the same kind of Me Too content. And I went to pull some clips from it for this show today that I was going to talk about it. And it's already privated. I imagine that's because of all the pushback that our community has been throwing their way. Do you think, what kind of content do you think Edwin should be doing? Or do you think he needs to just be blasted off the internet?
well, I don't think he needs to be blasted off the internet. I don't think that. I think that's a bit far. I think he needs to really look at himself in the mirror. Um, I think he needs to address the skeletons in his own closet and stop calling his own ex-friends pedophiles and sex traffickers.
Yeah.
I also think he needs to get his like fan base, or his like the people he sort of like has under his like spell, to stop harassing said ex-friends. Like um he had a back and forth with Sear, and who was a friend of Edwin's and a housemate of Edwin's.
Okay.
And to this day, like some of Edwin's fans still like harass the people involved in that situation. It's just like we're now in 2024. That shit happened in 2017,
Yeah.
and it's just like things should be left the fuck alone. Like in 2022 is when Edwin went on stream drunk as a skunk and was calling Sear a pedophile, a hebephile, and doubled down on the fact that he's a sex trafficker. I'm
Yeah.
like, what the
And that was his roommate,
like
best friend at one point, right?
like yeah, like
So if he would
they
do
were
that to
good
his
friends.
That's
They
crazy.
made so much content together, and they were going out to parties together, and like to get like Onision and Edwin had a conversation about Seer, like, and him being like some sort of bad friend. When Onision and Edwin are like the same people, in my opinion, both of them were inappropriate with minors
Yeah.
throughout their YouTube careers. I don't think any 25-year-old man should be showering on you now live in front of fans that are underage. I don't care if he was just dyeing his hair. I don't care if he was like just shampooing his hair. He was nude on a live stream in front of children.
That's a bad look.
Like what the fuck? Like how is that okay? Like because I'm myself, I'm now 26, but last year I was 25, and I'm looking back at all this like content that was put out to the public, and I'm like, and it was still, most of it was still public in 2021, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Why was this allowed? Like, it was never okay. It was not okay for Shane Dawson to do blackface when he did. It was not okay for Edwin to do blackface when he did
True.
it. It was not okay for Shane to make disgusting fucking pedophilic jokes about children. It's not okay for fucking Edwin to do the same. And it's the same goes for Onision. They're all the same. In my opinion, they're all like very similar. And I'm like, how? Like, I remember there was one time in 2019 when the stuff came out about Shane Dawson, and
Okay.
when Shane Dawson put out like an apology for, like, he was taking accountability or whatever it was, and Edwin had made like a couple of responses being like, why are you doing this now? Like, you could have done it so and so, and no one has to accept your apology. And then he went on like and like watched hours and hours and hours of Shane's content, like reacting to it and being like, "Oh, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad," and like when you look back at Edwin's own history, it's like you were doing the same fucking content, mate. What the
Yeah.
fuck? And then Edwin would have the audacity to privacy strike, to copyright claim people who were showing the context of like him being the same as Shane Dawson, and it just pisses me off that was allowed to like happen when Edwin was allowed to like react to Shane's content for hours on end. He was allowed to react to Onision's content for hours on end and point out all their flaws, when Edwin needs to look the fuck in the mirror at himself and like reevaluate. He makes me. It makes me angry that he is not self-aware enough to recognize his own previous behaviors.
For sure.
Some of them
For
of
sure.
which he is still doing now, but
So we basically touched on Edwin. I'm going through these topics with you today, Darcy. I'm glad that you hopped on with me today. I got like two more topics, but the one I think I want to talk about is, did you hear that Leigha Something just hit 1,000 subscribers? That's kind of a big deal for the commentary community, is it not?
I think that's great for Leigha, even though me and Leigha don't speak all that often. I tend to stay away from Leigha.
Why? Does she scare you?
No, she doesn't scare me. She specifically asked me to keep my distance from her, and so
Really?
I've respected. Yeah, she messaged me at like 2 o'clock in the morning my time, expecting me to give her a response in half an hour.
About what?
And
What did she want a response about?
I can't. Bear with me.
Okay.
Let me pull it up.
Yeah,
Can you still hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. Take your time. Yes, Dingus, it is a cartoon avatar. I wonder who made that. It's pretty good. I was
Still have it.
I'm a Leigha fan. Like, we've had our ups and our downs, and I personally am very, very proud of her. 1,000 subs. That's a big deal. She was going into the trenches with that recent story with that lion, Lio the lion guy in the art commentary community, and Hopeless
Sure.
Peaches and Doodles or something, brother. There's so much going on there, and that's the thing about Miss Something is she dives in and she gets all the details, and
That
it's
creepo
crazy.
Lio guy, he's
Yeah,
not my vibe.
I don't know much about
Um,
him. I know he's very abrasive, and I'm an abrasive guy, but I hear he's like weird, like very weird. So I don't know
he
much about
just
it.
he just gives me like bad vibes. Like some of those
He's into
like you meet
toys.
people in the sorry,
I said he's really into toys. I don't
he's
know how I
really
feel
into
about that.
really shit lion costumes.
Yeah, that's for a
Um,
fact.
and so I can't remember what day it was. It was sometime in August of last year, around that time.
Okay.
Leigha had sent me a message. She said something to the effect of "You're blocked because you keep I don't think Leigha knows that how Twitter works. I wasn't tagging anyone. I was responding at the
Yeah.
time. She was like, "You're blocked because you kept tagging me in posts with slug. I asked you not to, and you didn't listen. That's why you were blocked. I will give you 1 hour to read this message. Then you will go back to block
Whoa.
status." And I'm like, "Okay, well, okay." That was like that message was at 2:25 a.m. my time, and she
Wow.
expected me to like either see it or respond like super fast. Um, there was 1 month where she blocked me, and because my hormones have been like all over the place because I stopped taking
Yeah.
testosterone
I
early
remember you said that.
2023.
Yeah.
Um, so my hormones were just all over the place throughout like the last 12 plus months. And so when Leigha blocked me at that time, it was the first time I had like any emotion in regards to someone blocking me. And I remember I messaged Jessica Pizzle about Leigha blocking me, and I'm like, why did she block me? Like, why is she like mad at me? I'm like, I was genuinely like upset about it. And it was because like I was having those emotional moments that people with female bodies have around that
Okay.
time of the month,
Yeah.
and I didn't recognize that it was like that sort of problem at the time. But looking back at specific dates and like times that messages went on, I'm like, that makes a lot more sense. Like why I was so like hyper emotional at that time. Um, but yeah, it was just really random. Like in my opinion, she just like messaged me out of the blue, and it was just like, and then she said that like she'd rather I kept my distance from her, and that's all
So
fine and
since
dandy. And I think I've done like reasonably well to keep my distance from her, and I don't know how she feels about it, but
are you a fan of her
I've like
content though?
sometimes I think she does well. I think she holds herself quite well.
She does.
I
Yeah.
think she has very specific opinions that I don't necessarily agree with. But then again, 9 times out of 10, I don't agree with the commentary community in general.
I'm starting
Um,
to get there, to be honest with you. I've been having this conversation with like PT lately. It's like I don't know if I'm just like maturing out of it or something. It's like I'm finding myself more and more being fascinated by like law driven stuff, and it's like everybody in commentary acts like they know, at least in this small little niche community we have here. It seems like everybody thinks that they know everything when they really don't. They know fuck all. It's like, um, and when I first joined this community, I was so enamored. Like maybe these people do know everything, And it's like after you start listening to some of these people, you're like, man, these people really don't know shit. I don't. Have you had that experience at all with some creators?
to some degree, and then others to a different degree. I prefer to I think I vibe more with people that are chatters than actual streamers themselves most of the
Okay.
time. I don't know whether that's a viewer thing or I don't
Less
because
egos.
some chat. Sorry.
There's a lot less egos when you're dealing with just chatters as opposed to content creators.
Yeah, I think you might be right there. Chatters don't see themselves, generally speaking, as self-important. They also some of them genuinely disagree with what the content creator is saying. I actually prefer when people make a point against what a content creator is saying if it's a live streamer in a live stream. I think that's good discussion. It's just why do we always have to believe what the content creator is saying?
True. Mm-hmm.
That in my opinion there is four sides to a story. There's your side, there's my side, there's the witnesses / the bystanders sides, and there's also the truth. And in my opinion, no one really gets to the truth. I don't think anyone in any story will ever find the truth. I think that's unattainable. I don't know if that makes much sense.
No, I can see why you say that. I mean, the part of me wants to believe that the truth will always end up coming out at some point. But it's a matter of how hard you have to really dig through all those other versions, as you were just saying. It's a hard thing. It's a complex thing, I suppose.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in life that are complex. Speaking of complex, I'm not you're relatively new to the commentary community in regards to all these names that are sort of around.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard of MrSen or Mr. Not
Yes.
Sen, or not what he's going by these days.
Yep.
But have you seen lately that he's gotten himself into some drama?
Yeah,
there's
I
been some
touched on
drama
it.
surrounding him.
Yeah, I touched on it a little bit, this morning when I first got on the air. It's a crazy situation. I can't believe Huggy, I told Huggy out of, watch the people you platform, and the first thing he does is he platforms somebody that's accused of this type of stuff. And it's I think
I have a fairly different opinion in this situation. I never thought there'd be a day where I would be defending Sen, to be honest.
Oh, I don't have a problem with Sen. I don't know much about this issue. I just know what he's being accused of. And let me run it past you. Let me run it past. Is he being accused of sending pictures of Lolly to a man that he thought was a woman?
That's the sort of gist of it.
And did he do it?
There's there's some hentai looking shit back and forth in this Discord sort of back and forth. I think Sen's issue, in my opinion, that for a really long time he denied that the messages were real, or that it was actually him that was conversing with this person. In my opinion, based off the last several years of leaked DMs, that sort of thing. In my opinion, when Crows of Judgment, Origami, Toy Bounty Hunter, and Steve's Alive, when they did that stream the other day for hours.
Okay.
In my opinion,
that 4-hour stream.
That was a breach of Sen's privacy.
Yeah.
That was also, even though those screenshots have been on Kiwi farms for a long time now, in my opinion, even if Sen doesn't feel that way, I feel like that was a breach of Sen's privacy.
Is anyone going after the guy that catfished Sen, or is he just getting away with being a catfish?
Um, so here's the kicker to that story. So the catfish was extorted by some of the people on Kiwi farms to get those messages. So he exchanged those messages for Kiwi farms to stop harassing him. He's a fella named Jared or something. Um,
Wow.
Real creepy dude in my opinion. But Kiwi farms extorted those messages from him about Sen, and I'm like, so these messages were extorted from someone, and they're an invasion of these two people's privacies, in my opinion. And these, in my opinion, ex acquaintances, ex friends, ex online sort of people that used to like hang out and vibe.
Yeah.
I think them doing that, even though I don't have like hard feelings towards a few of them, I think that was kind of like gross. It feels icky. It feels really nasty. Like, I mean, Sen could have done
I wonder if Sen lives in a two-party
something
consent state. Because if he
like,
does, he could probably take that to court. I mean, because that would be a
like,
violation of privacy.
yeah, like, even though, like, I spoke to Sen about this in private. I'm like, do you feel like it's a violation of your privacy? And his response was, not really. And I'm like, well, I feel like it's a violation of your privacy. Um, like, people don't have to agree on these sorts of things. I'm like, those are like pretty private messages if you like looking at them.
Yeah.
And there was another situation in regards to Stan and other messages where the Crows of Judgment sort of people sort of went over those, and
That's a
those
group
were
of
also
people?
in,
Pros of
yeah. So
Judgment?
yeah, like so you've got Crow. I don't like Crow. I think he's a liar. You've got Origami, who's the nicest out of that group, in my opinion. I've only ever had good experiences with Aura. You've got Steve Delive or Delieve, however you want to pronounce it.
Okay. I've heard of
Um,
him.
People have their opinions of Steve. Um, Generally speaking, I've only ever had good experiences with Steve. I did message Steve about a very specific thing in regards to the whole Revan broadsword situation.
Yeah.
But because Steve and Rev don't get along at all.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, there's a lot of bad blood there. But I have no like major big issues with Steve apart from him. Like there are some issues with him in regards to harassing. What that's not the right term. Steve, much like Slug, has doxed people.
Hmm.
Even if like um, it's like a someone's like first and last name is like publicly available on like a social media platform. He, in my opinion, Steve wasn't doing like hashish level like doxing behavior, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, but like first last name that type of thing. Um,
Dachshund is
and then you've got
Dachshund. You're the one who taught me that.
yeah, like in regard like when Dove like in my opinion doxed me, my issue was that she found information on people that I didn't live with and have never lived with.
Yeah,
That
like
was
your
my issue.
family and shit.
It was like people that like it was fine if the family lived with me, but like it was like family that didn't live with me that she found the information on, and I'm like that's like too far. And I'd posted I'd posted some pictures of myself and my dogs at like a beach that's pretty local to where Dove lives.
Yeah, I
And
remember her boasting about that in VCs, like how much detective work that took for her to do.
and I'm just like, when I found out how like creepy it was, I'm just like, that's so creepy. Like, who looks at like some trees in the background of like a beach photo
Mm-hmm.
and is like, I know that beach.
That was
Like,
exactly how it went down.
it's so, and it genuinely, at the time, it made me more paranoid than when Steffi was doing her thing. And I'm like, I've obviously now I've forgiven Steffi for what happened in 2021. I think she's a lovely person. I've spoken about this publicly. I actually returned in general to the community because I caught a Nick Diorio live stream on,
Okay.
I think it was Twitch, and it was just like out of the blue in like late October, November-ish of 2022. And out of nowhere, he brings up the fact that Steffi had posted bridge coordinates,
That's nuts.
and I'm like, I don't want this person to die. I don't want this person, even though they've like
Done so much to
harassed
you.
me for a while. I don't want this person to like off themselves. So I tried to get in contact with her. I went through a bunch of like different avenues to
Was she
like try
still
to reach
Team
out.
Edwin at this time?
Sorry?
Was she still on Team Edwin at this time?
I don't think so. I think she'd finally cut him loose after he'd called Sarah a pedophile.
Okay.
She's one of the people that posted the that clip. But I ended up finally getting a hold of her when I can't remember whether I made a new Twitter account or not, but I finally got a hold of her and we finally like spoke about like a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I really appreciate her existence, at least in my life. I don't know if she feels the same way, but I love her as a person. And I hope she's doing really well. It was I was genuinely like worried that like we were gonna have another community member take their lives. And like, even though I'd gone through all that sort of stuff with her, I didn't want that to happen to her. And so I sort of like stayed around, hung around the community for a little while longer, to make sure like she wasn't gonna like do something again. Um, and then all of a sudden, Edwin's like banging fucking Salvo. Like,
I mean,
I'm
they
sitting
they
there.
did make out, and they did sleep in the same bed together. I mean, I could see how everybody says that somebody who bummed who is the question. I, I
It
can
was
see
it was
I can see how
so
people,
wild.
yeah, the rumors are, they're there, and I can see why they are there, and they get so mad about these rumors, and it's like, but you guys streamed topless kissing each other, you guys talked about sleeping in a bed with one another, you guys shared a woman together allegedly. Like, I can understand why people are
It
thinking
was
some swords got crossed.
it was it was what, from my perspective, because I hadn't like spoken about Edward in months by then. I'd completely like vamoosed from the internet. Um, and to watch it all play out from like, because I caught I'm sure you remember Salvo's Halloween stream of that
Yeah.
year,
Yep.
where he was like twisting some sort of knife and like taunting Xylee.
Yeah.
Um, and
I don't know how I was so I was so enamored by Salvo at that time, thinking, his shit didn't stink. But now I look back on a lot of it like, wow. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's. I mean, what's the word? I don't want to say sometimes love is blind, but I think sometimes we're blind to those we think we like.
Yeah, I agree. It's like you don't want to see certain things.
And you look you look past all these like bad behaviors, all these like things that usually would be red flags for you, and it's one of those. It's unfortunate in the end when you realize that this person is kind of awful, or kind of bad, or just bad in general, or even a criminal.
Yeah.
But I watched it I watched it all play out and I'm like watching, in my opinion, Edwin's downfall, and I'm just like, I had nothing to do with this. It was all his own fault.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
I'm like, how the he went on. He always seems to fuck up live streams on New Year's. Like,
yeah,
I can't
yeah.
believe. Oh, I can't believe he did that New Year's live stream like after all the salvo shit, and was
It was
like,
pathetic.
it was. I was like, what the fuck?
Hmm.
What are you on about? I'm like, I saw all this shit that you were doing. Like, you were borderline fucking nude again to like fucking an audience of like people that potentially are underage, by the way.
Huh?
Not, but I was like, holy Jesus Christ. You cannot make yourself look any worse right now. But he managed to. He just continued to do really awful streams.
For sure.
And it's like, he either did them himself, he either did them himself, or he went on other streams and would just lie, like lie after lie after lie after lie. And then I remember Xylee getting in trouble because she said that Edwin had sexually assaulted Babs.
Yeah.
And I've actually, now, having gone through my own drama with Rev, I now understand how frustrated Babs must have felt when she kept going into live streams, into comment sections, and she was like, "No, I didn't say Edwin said sexually assaulted me. I said I felt uncomfortable because I've had to do something similar where I've had to say, like, I don't feel like Rev manipulated me. I don't."
It's like the game of telephone. The internet picks up on something and it just changes and changes and changes, and more people put their spin on it, and it's heavy. So I apologize again if you felt the need that you had to go out of your way to try to correct how you felt. I've said it every single time. Whenever I said something, these are my opinions. I even posted tweets to try to make that a little easier for you by saying, hey, this is my opinion, so I hope you didn't take much offense to that, or it didn't make things harder for you.
It was one of those things where people, in my opinion, people weren't listening to what myself and Rev and even Broadsword were saying. Like, we all have our own different opinions and our different like tellings of what happened. And like watching like all these different streams and all these different people talk about it, I even mentioned this to Rev in private. I said, I don't know how we would have done had we been as big as like Deji and KSI. Like, had our drama been that big? Because I remember when there was I remember when Deji and KSI were going at each other.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you know about that whole situation. It happened a few years ago now.
Well, I seen a couple of videos.
I remember Deji brought up KSI's financials because Deji lived in the house with KSI's parents. Like KSI didn't have access to his bank sort of stuff, and Deji put it out there in a diss track.
That's crazy.
And I remember their whole back and forth, and I was saying to Rev, I'm like, thank fuck our shit wasn't that big, because it would have gotten worse and worse and worse and worse.
Yeah. I'm glad that you guys were able to talk it out like adults, and I think that's what this community needs more often is people acting like adults.
It was. I think our phone conversation should have happened way back in November.
Yeah. Right after that first stream, it should have happened, in my opinion. It would have stopped so much,
because how that phone call ended up happening was I had called him on a private number, and he never answers to private numbers. And he answered, and we spoke for I think 3, almost 4 hours.
Wow.
And it ended up for him being 3 o'clock in the morning, and he wasn't there was no screaming, there was no yelling, there was no how he is as his online persona. I got to speak to Jason, the person.
That's good.
And that's who I fell in love with. I didn't fall in love with Brad, I fell in love with Jason. It was a really, really lovely conversation. We both lost people we cared about throughout the last 6 weeks, due to our own behaviors.
Joshua Putman in chat. Sorry, I just had to say hi to Josh.
Sorry?
I just had to say hi to Joshua Putman. He's in the chat. So, hey, Josh.
I love Josh. Hi, Josh.
We're some putt maniacs around here.
But yeah, it was really good. I hope, at least from my perspective, I hope those people that he lost, I hope they forgive him. We had a long conversation about tactics we used, or behaviors we did.
Yeah, it was war for you guys.
And I said to him, like I said to other people in private, I said, I knew that I was antagonizing him in regards to him releasing messages. If he had done the same to me, I would have never released them all. There's so much information about him that's now out there.
Yeah.
That he sent to someone he didn't trust. He said that in private. He said that he sent it to a couple of people that he did trust and someone that he didn't trust. And he said that he did so in a malicious way, and that he should have censored some images. There was very intimate images of myself there.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, there was intimate images of himself and his family, not in the same vein as mine, but I would call the pictures that he sent me also intimate in some
Yeah,
way.
on a different level, absolutely.
And like, had I released our messages, there is a lot I would have censored. I would have censored some information that he shared with me. I would have censored his address, his banking information, that sort of shit. Like there was a lot of shit that he shared that's now out there.
True.
Unfortunately, we're not time travelers. We can't travel back in time. We can't undo the mistakes we feel like we've made.
Yep.
The one thing that I didn't like, he when he went on Slug's stream all the way back, like 7 weeks ago. The one main thing I had an issue with throughout this whole time was him calling me his biggest mistake.
Yeah.
When he is the best thing that's happened to me in a long time.
That's good.
And so when
I'm
he
glad.
said that, it affected me quite greatly, really. Like,
Sure.
out of everything that he's said, that was the one that affected me the most.
Well, you guys are past it. Things are going in a positive direction. We've been
I would
talking
say
for
so.
we've been talking for almost an hour, a little over an hour and 40 minutes now. So, I like to keep the shows kind of short. So we're gonna get ready to bring it home here. I just want to apologize. Oh, go ahead.
I think there was one more question you had earlier about. I sort of sidetracked and went to talking about Sen, but you had one more question sort of there.
Which was?
I'm not too sure because it was your question.
I to be honest with you, I got so lost in what you were talking about, I completely forgot. So I really don't remember. Wow. But I'm sure if the chat has to remind me, if they can. Otherwise, we can always leave it for next time. We can always pick this up at a later date. I just wanted to apologize again, Darcy, just so you know. It's something I'm working on with the pronouns, and I'll be sure to get it right in the future here. And I'm supposed to ask, hold on here. Do you guys got any questions for Darcy real quick? Ask him real quick. Oh, Darcy, what is your favorite form of potato? How do you like your potatoes cooked? I'm supposed to ask.
We've got to have one of those purpley red potatoes, and you peel it and you cut it up and you cook them and you cut it up into like half-inch size chips, and then you deep fry them. And
also,
they
like
go
a potato wedge,
so
almost.
well with aioli.
Ooh, okay, yeah, you are kind of an aioli buff. I hear you always talking about aiolis.
I love aioli. Listen,
that's awesome.
I'm the size I am because I like aioli.
That's awesome.
My opinion.
For sure, for sure. I can't thank you enough for coming on today, Darcy. It really means a lot to me. We got to some of the topics I wanted to discuss, but at some point I would like to have a real in-depth, serious interview with you if you ever have the time, and we can really get to know each other a little bit better. And I'm an open book just like you, so I don't mind talking and letting people know.
I'm not sure if you'd be open to it, but it's possible that we could have that interview in person.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Like in front of a camera, that sort of thing. Like that's a possibility.
Absolutely.
At some stage in late July, August, sometime.
Yeah, I'm 100% down.
Ironically, I've got to pick up a luggage bag I left at Rev's house because I left it there because I was going to return.
Yeah.
And so I do have to pick that bag up, and I have to meet all the people that I didn't end up meeting the first time round.
For sure.
And so
let's schedule it.
I'd like to have a full conversation in person, that sort of thing. I'm more. People like to think I'm super terminally online, and I'm in all these discords, and I'm like on Twitter all the time. But the reality is, I'd rather like have a conversation in person with someone than like with someone online.
And like people forget, like there's smartphones now. Like people are online while they're doing things. Like I don't understand why people always think everybody's so terminally online when they could be out in a park and be on their phone. You know what I'm saying? I understand you should be enjoying the nature and all that stuff, but people get bored sometimes and they go to their phone, you know, and I think a lot, well, maybe in some cases some people are terminally online, but you know,
Like, in my opinion, people that use the desktop version of Discord, they're the terminally online people.
for sure. There you go. I like that. I like that. All right, Darcy, I'm going to get ready to bring it home here. Do you have any last words for the audience?
Stay safe and wear protection.
There you go. And I will make sure to link all your socials in the description below, guys. With all that being said, this was Miltown in the Morning. A kind of a crazy one. We were just going to do all these topics, and it kind of turned into a interview with Darcy where we talked about some of the topics I was going to discuss. So you'll never know what you're going to get here on Miltown in the Morning. Another show in the books, Saturday, March 23rd. We are ending right now at 10:47 a.m. With all that being said, guys, I love you, and I'll see you some other time. Peace.